This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening. My name is Mary Maslowski. I'm the chairperson of the Historic District and Historical Commission for Town of Harwich. Tonight is Wednesday, November 18th, 2020 at 6 p.m. We are holding this meeting via remote participation only in accordance with Governor Baker's March 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. No in-person attendance is permitted. Anyone is invited to join the meeting via your computer, tablet, or smartphone. The hyperlink is located on the Town of Harwich website on the agenda packet under the Historic District and Historical Commission agenda. You can also dial in using your telephone. The number is 1-312-757-3121 with an access code of 334-667-773. I'd like to start tonight's meeting with a roll call, please. So if we could start, Brendan Lowney.
Here.
Jean Steiner.
Here.
Julie Eldridge.
Here.
Robert Doan.
Here.
We also have on the line with us tonight David Spitz, who's here on behalf of the Brooks Academy Museum Commission, and Robin Kelly on behalf of the Cemetery Commission. So we'd like to start the meeting with under the public meeting agenda, which is Community Preservation Commission articles for the annual town meeting. The first item on the agenda is the Brooks Academy Museum Commission. The application is for Brooks Academy structural improvements. David, would you like to let us know what's going on?
Sure. I've probably been involved with Brooks Academy for about 3 years as chair. I got roped into that after I left town hall. And we had some money left over from a CPC article to study improvements to the building. We hired an architect and we had the wish list from the Historical Commission. We ended up with a very nice project that included a low impact elevator to go from basement, first floor to second, to create a basement storage area for historic artifacts and documents, a climate controlled area. And if you really want to get into climate control, that can mean a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different ways to do that, but that should not be the topic of tonight's discussion. And we also wanted to change the entrance to its historic location under the columns at the north end of the building. We submitted the request for that to CPC, and the architect had done a visual inspection of the entire building and said structurally it looks pretty good. And when asked by CPC about that, I parroted the architect's comments are that if there are any issues, they'll show up during the design phase and can be dealt with then. CPC did not accept that and said, nope, you got to go back and make sure where you stand with structural issues before you do anything else. As it turns out, that was very good advice. We kicked this around. It was in the hands of the town hall for a while, but the problem I think they were having, other than a pandemic and a whole bunch of other things, was that it was difficult to identify a local structural engineer with historic experience. So I started getting more actively involved in July. My first step, which also turned out to be a good one, was to contact the Cape Cod Commission, to Sarah Korjeff. She gave me the names of 3 structural engineers with experience on Cape Cod and also with historic buildings. One of them had been involved with a library, and I actually did not have them as my first choice because there was a mixed feeling about them from people I had talked to in town. But the top name on the list was a fellow named John Wathney from Structures North in Salem. He has done buildings on the Cape, and he has extensive experience with historic buildings. We hired him, and except for the fact that he was trying to get in a fair bit of vacation time this summer, he was been very responsive. He came to look at the building in September. And it said, you know, this building looks pretty good, except you're going to have to deal with the foundation. And I said, well, you're talking about, you know, $20,000 or $2 million. He estimated at the time $250,000. That $250,000, now that he's finished his work, has gone up. And we've presented 3 options to CPC. We feel that it is, since the building is going to have to be improved to the point of putting in at least a 4-foot foundation wall and dig out underneath to make that happen, it is cost effective, and now is the best time to create a basement under the entire footprint of the building. There are a lot of storage needs associated with the museum and with other historic items that the town could make use of. We'd like to have a basement under the entire thing. Once I apply the multipliers for contingencies that the town engineer feels are appropriate, and which probably are, that comes up to over $1.2 million. There was a middle option in which we would excavate basically half of the unused area for basement, and that comes in at approximately $900,000. I ended up asking CPC for the whole thing, but just going for enough money to do that option. The third option was simply to use the existing basement to shore up the rest of the foundation and to do no additional excavation. That would have been, I'm forgetting the numbers in front of me, but $500,000 or $600,000 or so. And I think it would be a shame to just go with that very basic option, because if we're going to be dealing with the building anyway and putting in that 4-foot foundation wall, we should ideally excavate under the entire building, but if not that much, at least get half of the basement area expanded. So we presented that to CPC. I certainly can't say, the 2 of you who are on there, I can't say how you or anyone else reacted, but I feel this is a very important building in town. If we don't take care of it, we're going to be in trouble. We have to do something with the foundation, and I would like to combine the basement work at the same time. I asked the engineer to make sure in his drawings to show where the pit would be for the elevator, and he has done that. And now it's in the hands of CPC and whomever else. I did try to check in with the Board of Selectmen to see if they'd want to see us sooner or later. I think they're going to process evolve as we go, but clearly for the sort of numbers that we're talking about, we have to get full town support to make this work. The only other thing I want to highlight at this time is I've asked, anticipating public questions, both from commissions and the general public, what's going to happen to the building during construction, and apparently it can be fully operable. The supports to the building, there's certain extensions they put in that will allow them to keep the building. They're not lifting it up several feet in the air. They're lifting it enough to be able to do this work. And very soon, once the engineer and I have finished checking the draft, there will be a document showing the whole procedure for how the construction will take place. The other important element is that it will continue to be a brick-faced foundation. I think that's the one design element that will be visible to the public and should be part of the purview of this commission. And so wherever a concrete foundation or a concrete wall is being put in, it will be brick-faced. I further asked the structural engineer, well, what kind of brick? He said, usually you can preserve most of the existing brick and work with that. That's going to be, at least I can make this statement now, and I just have to follow through to make sure it's the case. That will be written into the contract documents. The expectation will be that original brick will be used and that it will be brick-faced upon completion. I think with that, I would stop and answer any questions.
Great, thanks, David. So anybody from the commission? Bob Doan, do you have any questions?
Yes, David. Even though you asked in your body of your proposal to CPC, on the front page you only put the request for the 785. Would you intend to update that, or let me, before you answer that, certainly there's been, I think, some editorials and certainly comments from different town people that there's a lot of support for the complete full basement and not a partial basement. And I think in my opinion is that from our standpoint as the historic district is that we should ask for a full basement. But I didn't know whether you should actually ask to update the application for the full amount.
The way I've worded the application is that we are applying for the entire project. We are asking for money out of this year's CPC project for at least enough to get the half basement option done. I further said in the application, our intent is to get the balance through grant applications and/or a future year CPC application. I'd be happy to ask for the full amount, but I was a bit cautious about doing so.
Yeah, I got to speak from historic right now. I would certainly encourage you to ask for the full amount because it's easier to cut it back with a CPC to cut it back than it is to really ask the CPC, well, give me the whole thing right now. And I would hate to wait another year to wait for more money to do it because that means it's a whole another year of delay.
There are two main grants that are available. One is a historic grant. The structural engineer has extensive experience with applying for that grant. It looks to me like that could net about $100,000. The problem is that one round of grant was completed in June and they have not yet established a new round for that one.
Right.
The other one is a cultural facilities grant. Reading it through, it looks like we're eminently eligible for that one. I think we would be eligible for up to about $250,000 for that one. It's a very competitive grant, and their application deadline is January, this coming January. So I got to work fast to make that one.
Right.
So I'm still trying to go for those grants, but your strategy may be sounder in terms of asking for the whole thing from CPC.
Anything else, Bob?
Nope, I think that's it for this moment.
Mary, can I just beg your indulgence?
Of course.
One more thing I want to direct to Bob, which is that the engineer has looked at the entire building, not just the foundation. I just saw his draft write-up yesterday, and I was too optimistic when I told you the other night that the columns were in pretty good shape. So he has done a write-up on that and so suggesting some work there as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, David. Julie Eldridge, do you have any questions?
I would say I kind of agree with Bob just because he's been on the committee so long, he's on CPC, but I would say ask for the full amount because it's a lot easier to try to ask for all of it, and then if they don't say okay, it's hard to come back for more, I guess. Would that be right, Bob?
That's my opinion, and the CPC, because of all the options are presented, the CPC can choose one of them, one of the three options. So it.
But I think it would improve the building, and just by doing the full basement, if it's able to do that. That would be my thing, is to go for it that way.
Right.
If this commission, I believe, feels that way, then if I get that reading from you folks, then that helps me go in to ask for an amendment.
Anything else, Julie?
I'm good. I think Jean wants to say something.
Jean Stein.
Dave, thanks. I remember when you came before the commission, maybe it was a couple of years ago, and started talking about the work that needed to be done in the Brooks building. And I would agree with what Bob said too. I think you should go for the full amount. That's a very important building for the town. It's really a cornerstone. We talked about the library when we we're trying to help them secure funding, that between the library and Brooks Academy, that's the historic district, but we've got these two beautiful buildings, one on either end, of the Main Street portion of the district. And it just seems like it should be up to speed. It should be up to date rather. And that basement, as I recall, was going to service not only Brooks Academy, but wasn't it also being designed to store some artifacts from Brooks Library as well?
There's been no clear discussion about that. I mean, I think there have been some comments made, but nobody that I've been involved with has gone into that in any great depth. I'm sure there are a lot of additional storage needs. If we have that space available, it'll get used.
Sure. I would urge you to ask for the whole amount as well.
Okay, thank you.
And Brendan, any questions or comments?
No, I'm good. Nothing to add.
All right. I guess my one comment would be that I too agree with Bob. I think it's easier to ask for the whole and then let CPC decide whether there's sufficient funding and whether it's priority enough to give you the entire amount. It's always easier to pull back. And I also think if your branch timing is such that you're applying in January and you find out before town meeting that you have some money available, then it should be able to be reduced before town meeting,
Exactly.
so that can get amended. So it seems to me to make sense to request the full and let the chips fall where they may, as
Right.
on the CPC floor, I guess. Are there any other questions or comments before we put it to a vote? All right, so just typically on CPC, we've asked for votes of support for applications in our specific categories. So at this point, I think it would be appropriate, if the board so chooses, to make a motion to support the Brooks Academy Museum application in whatever amount you feel necessary, and to communicate the same to CPC. Anyone want to make a motion?
I so moved. Support the Brooks Academy application for funding from the CPC.
Did you want to
Dollar
include
amount
the
in
full
there
amount?
or no? I'm sorry.
Did you want to include the full amount, Jean?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
For
so
the
there's a motion.
full basement.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to support the Brooks Academy Museum Community Preservation Committee application, including the option for a full basement, which would be option C, I believe, on the application. Is there a second?
I'll second. Yeah.
So Julie is seconded. So we'll take a roll call vote. Jean Steiner,
Yes.
Julie Eldridge,
Yes.
Brendan Lowney,
Yes.
Bob Doan,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well, so it's unanimous. So David will get a letter drafted for CPC to communicate our support.
Okay, I appreciate your input very much, and I hope you can guarantee me that the rest of the town process will go this smooth.
Fingers crossed, David, fingers crossed.
All right. Do you need anything more from me? I'm Robin. I'm not gonna listen to you. I'm gonna sign off.
Okay.
We are all set.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, David.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dave.
So as David just said, the next item on our agenda is the Cemetery Commission, E.H. Methodist Gravestone Conservation and Preservation, and Historic Restoration of Fence and Posts at the E.H. Methodist Cemetery. Robin Kelly, would you like to let us know about your application this year?
Yeah, they're two separate applications, so I'll do one at a time.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
We have
the
blended together on the application, on the agenda.
yeah. So one is the East Harwich Methodist. It's for the gravestones, and in the gravestones that are in the cemetery, we have 65 total repairs that need to be done, 45 monuments that are broken or cracked. And I did send you an updated, and I don't know if you all got it in time. So I've actually physically taken pictures of all the stones. When I've done projects in the past with the CPC, when I put it out to bid, I like to be very specific on the stone and what needs to be done. I actually have one of the books from the last gravestone preservation. So every stone that gets conserved, it has before and after photographs, what was done to the stone. And so this is an extra book that we had made. One's for me and one was for the CPC. The CPC, David didn't want it over at the CPC, so I don't know if you guys want it somewhere. If you get that basement at the Brooks, I'd love it to go there because it has all of the historic information on all the monuments. Like it says who the monument belonged to, you know, when it was preserved, the date of the monument, and all that information. So it's very detailed in restoring these monuments. The oldest monument that's going to be conserved in this cemetery is from 1797. It's 223 years old. It is a Revolutionary War veteran, Ebenezer Eldridge's stone. I don't know if he's related to you, Julie.
No.
Anyways, a lot of these stones have been neglected for many, many years. So I really feel that this, there's 2 applications that I have. If you guys had to pick one, this is the one that absolutely, I think, cannot wait. There are some brown stones that are in this packet that you can look at. Once the actual engraving starts to flake off, there's no getting it back. So if they're not conserved, we'll lose them forever. So it's in pretty bad shape. I recommend that you, although today was very cold outside, I recommend that the next nice day, if you can, just walk around up there. There are also 56 monuments that are leaning in this cemetery that are in danger of falling. So the longer we wait to have these monuments done, when I first went in and wrote this article, one of the stones had broken in half when I went back to redo the pictures. So since we started this, already one of them has fallen over. So I really hope that you give this article. Do you have any questions for me?
Bob Doan?
No questions other than commenting the previous history of your work on preserving them is magnificent. I walked through a lot of the graveyards, and I mean, we ran into each other up in Howard Center one day, and at Island Pond. So no, I'm totally supportive of this, and thank you for all the work you've put into this.
Right. It's fun for me too. I love getting the history of all the people that are. For each stone, we have to find out their exact date of death, where they died, and all that information. And try to make sure that we recognize all of our veterans.
Yes.
Jean Steiner, any questions or comments?
Just a comment that I think it's really important work, and I think it's integral to the town too to have these preserved, and certainly for the families that are descendants of the people, it's a wonderful thing. So I'm very much in favor of this.
Thank you.
Brendan Lowney, any questions or comments?
No question, but definitely in favor. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
And Julie Eldridge.
No question, same thing. I'd like to commend Robin on all the work she does because this is very important. Some of these stones are extremely old. I'll have to ask Eric if that's a relative. So I
right.
support this, yeah.
So if there are no other questions or comments, the chair will entertain a motion to support the East Harwich Methodist gravestone restoration project.
I'll make a motion to approve it. Clarification, is this one for 102,000, Robin?
That's
No.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. I make a motion to approve it as to support it. We're supporting this, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The motion's been made to support the East Harwich Methodist gravestone restoration project application in the amount of $102,000 plus or minus. Is there a second?
Second.
Brendan seconded. All those in favor, we'll take a roll call vote. Jean Steiner?
Yes.
Bob Miller?
Yes.
Julie Eldridge?
Yes.
Brendan Downey?
Yes.
And I also vote in favor, so it's unanimous. Robin, we will get a letter out to CPC expressing our support.
So I separated these two articles, even though they're at the same cemetery, because they would go out to bid to two different types of people. So the
Okay.
fence with the post and rails would go out to somebody who actually does just that type of work. And then you have someone who can serve stones, which is someone totally different. So I put them into one article because I think they're completely separate. So these are if you walk around and you see the cemetery, they're all flanked by, believe it or not, they're called Stoney Creek pink granite posts. And until you get close up to them, you don't realize that that's what they are. Stoney Creek was a quarry that started in 1858 in Connecticut. And there are very few cemeteries that have Stoney Creek posts. The South Harwich Meeting House also has them, and years ago we did a CPC article where we had those fixed. The quarry, there's only 3 quarries that quarry that type of granite, and what we suspect that we got ours from Norcross Brothers, who bought out part of Stoney Creek in 1887. So this is a specific type of granite. That's why it's a little bit more expensive than regular gray granite. So if you look at some of the other cemetery posts around, we did one CPC article years ago at the Evergreen. They have the gray granite posts. Those you can get pretty much everywhere. These are specific pink granite, and you can't really see it until you get up close. So anyway, so in this cemetery, we have 24 of the granite posts are either completely down to a little spike sticking out of the ground, maybe about 6 inches, to some of them are broken in half, halfway up, and some of them are cracked right at the edge where the metal in between. So it's all around the cemetery. All you have to do is go walk around and take a look at them, as well as a lot of trees and shrubs have grown into them, and probably is what probably pushed them over. So some of the thing is to level that growth underneath that so they won't push it back again. So this article is to put up the granite, to replace the granite post and rails and the galvanized pipe. When we had the CPC article for the for Evergreen Cemetery, we had a debate at one of the CPC about whether galvanized pipe was historic, and I actually found the original purchase and sales agreement for when we put the galvanized pipes in East Harwich, which was 1898. So clearly historic. So I believe that this cemetery is actually older than Evergreen. So I believe that this was probably done, first. And I'm sure that this fence is probably a little bit older than that. It was probably one of the original fences that were put in the town. So I'm hoping that you guys do support this. I listened to, as a person that was on the South Harwich Meeting House and having the basement put in there, and all of the work that was done, restored that back to what it is today. I'm really in favor of Brooks. Letting their project go through. I would love this project to also go through. But this would be my second choice if you guys had a, I don't know that that's at this level or it's at the next CPC level, but I think this needs to be done. And I would really like your support. Does anybody have any questions?
Jean Steiner, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I love walking through older cemeteries also, and I think, anything that we can do to keep them so that people can walk through them respectfully, et cetera, is a good thing. So I think this is a very worthwhile project.
It can be a safety issue too, because a lot of the galvanized pipes are all rusted through and broken. God forbid any child leans on it or falls on any of these posts. So that's a safety issue.
Any questions or comments, Brandon?
No, I mean, the safety issue alone is good enough for me, so.
Julie Eldridge?
Nope. I feel the same way. Safety issue, and just to keep it safe for everyone to go and see and keep it up. It's important.
Yeah, so what was, I think it's very interesting that a lot of the cemeteries have this granite block and galvanized pipe. Galvanized pipe's not very, really that attractive, but it seems to have really happened around that period. And I mean, is this common through all cemeteries in New England? Is it a fad? I mean, how did that come about?
I'm not quite sure how it came about, but it actually is very common. So I was the president of the New England Cemetery Association, and I am on their board of directors still. And we travel and view, not this year, obviously, many cemeteries, and a lot of them have this in them. And I think at one point it was to keep the animals out.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, like bigger animals, like what? Like cattle or something? Or...
So I think originally it was to make sure that they weren't trampling over people's graves. But I think a lot of them have them, and they are very historic. Some towns have chosen to just not do this historic work and just remove them altogether. And I really think it takes away from the integrity of the original cemetery. So I kind of like to restore it.
No, and I agree. I'm definitely in full support of this. I was taken back by the cost when you spend more on this than you do on the restoration. And I would have liked to seen it the other way around almost. But yeah, no, definitely I'm supportive of it, and I do appreciate looking at the type of granite and sourcing it from the same place. That's very that's really good historically to do that.
There's only 3 places that actually, and they're all in Connecticut, that source this particular. It's a vein of particular granite. So if we can and it's available, I'd like to keep it exactly the same.
Definitely.
Great.
So if no one has any other questions or comments, I would suggest that because Robin has given us her priority, I would recommend that we actually include that in our approval. It will be helpful to CPC, just in case that it comes down to dollars and cents. So I'll entertain a motion to support this application.
I'll do it. Everyone's so quiet.
Julie.
I'll make a motion to support the application.
And did you want to put priorities in?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, as Robin had presented them as the, all right, let me get this right. So for the, I'm going to call them is it headstones or is it markers?
So it's
Defense.
It's actually gravestone conservation and preservation.
Okay, so I we support the applications, making the priority the preservation of the gravestone conservation and preservation application. And second in priority would be for the fencing, the posts and the galvanized posts.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Julie's made the motion, Jean seconded. We'll take a roll call vote. Jean Steiner,
Yes.
Julie Eldridge,
Yes.
Bob Doan,
Yes.
Brendan Lowney,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes, so it's unanimous. Robin, we will send a letter out confirming this one as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Before we go, can I ask a
Yeah.
question?
Of course.
Yeah, so interestingly, at the CPC level, your third project for the flagpoles,
Ah,
you had, of course, stated it's recreation, and then I think David decided it was historic. I mean, do you have any clarification on that?
so it's right now, it is, I believe it is recreation because it is going to create a park inside the cemetery that will eventually, next year, I am in the process of working with the Mass Veterans Association. We are erecting a Civil War memorial and a Revolutionary War memorial. The Revolutionary War memorial I didn't think was as large as an encompassing group of men, but apparently because Brewster was not a town till 1803, all the registered veterans are registered as Harwich residents. And I talked to DAR and the Massachusetts Veterans Association, and they would have to be listed on our memorial because Brewster did not exist. So eventually, when that is ready, I would like that to become before historic, but I believe it's a park. It's going to have the American flag in the center, and it's going to be flanked by all the service flags around it. It's going to have, eventually have benches for each branch of the service, and it's a very large circle in there. It's nice and flat. We now have our services now at Island Pond Cemetery, and it is very hilly. And for our older veterans, it's very hard for them to park and then get to the area. And this would be a big open space that I think would be well used and visited by people. So I think it's going to be a great project, and I do feel it's a park. And I know that other towns have done it as a through a park type of CPC. So
Okay, good.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's historic?
Not the way it's written.
No.
If it was specifically doing certain veterans from past, yeah, I can see that. But just setting up with a flagpole, it is not.
Correct. I think when I revisit this next year, 'cause I'm hoping that's when it's done, which will be a huge thing for the town. I think I've already had like other towns call me because they saw, I don't know how it's even gotten out, but other towns are like, that's crazy that, we need to do that. That's pretty cool that you're doing that for the veterans. So as soon as I have that all done, I'll be excited to pull out the names out. I am impressed by how many people in this town were in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
I got a list originally and they only had 39 members. I found an additional 39 members the first week I started the research, so it's going to be extensive.
Great.
Wow. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
Bye-bye.
So, Bob, we don't really have it on here, but did you want to give just a quick update on CPC, where we stand?
Yeah, CPC, we've had two meetings so far, and the only historic one that has come up is the Brooks Academy. Other than that, we worked on some of the other recreations and other applications. And we'll continue in December 3rd, I think. We start up again, discussing each one, and with the idea that the early January, we'll probably make our final decisions on the funding levels and opportunities. That's it.
And that's perfect. And just one update, Jean and I are going to be meeting with administration on the 3rd, Jean,
Yes, it's the
about
3rd.
the demo delay order, the demo delay bylaw. So
Oh,
we'll update after that. If
Mary,
there's
do
not,
you know if that's in person or is it going to be on GoToMeeting?
I think we can do it either. We are allowed to go in person, so I was
Okay.
planning on going in.
That sounds good.
All right.
Yep.
So,
Is there anything else?
yes.
Bob?
Yeah, I would like to address 628 Bank Street. I believe that's going before the appeals board tomorrow. Is that correct, Mary? Or planning board?
I don't have a planning board agenda in front of me. If you want to send me the, if you want to email me the address, I will reach out to you tomorrow if it's on my list.
Yeah, it's the property in Howard Center. It's in the historic district.
Yep.
It's the Royal.
Oh, the
And-
Royal. Oh, yeah. That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the planning board tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah, and I didn't know, is that being applied as a 40B or just a standard standalone?
So it must be a standalone because 40Bs wouldn't go before the planning board. They would only go before Board of Appeals.
Okay, so I don't know whether we want to communicate, or you're on that committee, right, aren't you?
I am.
The planning?
I am.
So the only thing I just want to highlight or make it known that it does have to come before the historic district for approval.
Yep.
And so I'm not sure which is the cart or the horse, but I know that they are changing parking, which will definitely have an impact on street view, I think, streetscape.
So I will point out that it is in the historic district and is required to come before us. So I can
Right.
certainly do that at the meeting tomorrow night.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
All right. Not a problem. Anything else, folks?
I don't think so.
That's it.
If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Then moved by Mr. Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Brendan seconded. We'll do a roll call. Jean?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And I vote in favor as well. We are adjourned until next month, folks.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you very
Thanksgiving.
You all have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Mary. Bye, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, happy Thanksgiving to you as well.